For over 2 decades, Sony has ruled the video game industry. With legendary consoles, iconic exclusives, and powerhouse creative studios, the PlayStation brand has long been seen as untouchable. But in 2025, something has changed. In recent months, more and more gamers have started asking the same question. Is Sony starting to lose its crown? Several recent events have fueled that doubt. Jim Ryan, a key figure at PlayStation, stepped down from his role. Major exclusives are becoming rare or completely silent. Projects are being canceled. Others seem to lack a clear direction. Meanwhile, Xbox is making massive acquisitions and pushing new innovations. And Nintendo keeps dominating with a Switch that still refuses to slow down. On social media, the criticism is growing. Some call it a slowdown. Others see a transition. But everyone agrees. Something major is shifting. So today we're asking the question head-on. Is Sony truly losing steam, or just preparing for its next big move? Let's go back through Sony's golden years, take a close look at their recent decisions, examine what the competition is doing, and figure out what it all means for the future of gaming. To understand whether Sony is truly falling behind today, we first need to look back to when PlayStation was not just successful, but dominant. It all started in 1994 with the launch of the original PlayStation. Sony took a bold leap into the gaming market at a time when Nintendo and Sega were already battling for supremacy. But Sony didn't just enter the game, they changed the rules entirely. With 3D graphics, a CD-based format, and aggressive support for third-party developers, the PS1 quickly became a global phenomenon. Then came the PlayStation 2, and everything exploded. To this day, the PS2 remains the best-selling console of all time, with over 155 million units sold. Its library was unbeatable: Metal Gear Solid 2, Final Fantasy X, Shadow of the Colossus, God of War, Gran Turismo, and the system became a cultural pillar across the world. Sony had won. Even the PS3, which launched with technical challenges and a high price point, eventually recovered thanks to strong exclusives and a developer-friendly revamp. By the end of that generation, Sony had reclaimed its footing. But it was with the PlayStation 4 that Sony fully reasserted its dominance. Launched in 2013, the PS4 focused on what players truly wanted: great games, a sleek and affordable console, and a simplified developer environment. Sony doubled down on exclusives, partnering with studios like Naughty Dog, Santa Monica Studio, Insomniac Games, and Sucker Punch. Titles like Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, Bloodborne, and God of War weren't just great, they defined the generation. On the business side, Sony made smart decisions. They avoided risky gimmicks, they listened to feedback, and they stayed laser-focused on delivering premium single-player experiences at a time when many in the industry were chasing multiplayer trends and microtransactions. The result? Over 117 million PS4 units sold, a thriving ecosystem of passionate players, and near-universal praise from critics and fans alike. Sony had become the gold standard of the gaming world, respected, reliable, and ahead of the curve. Their studios were seen as creative powerhouses. Their games were artistic benchmarks. Their console was the platform to be on. And perhaps most importantly, the PlayStation brand had built an emotional bond with its players. It wasn't just a console, it was a symbol. When the PlayStation 5 launched in late 2020, it had everything going for it. The hype was massive. Pre-orders vanished in minutes. Early titles like Demon's Souls and Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart promised a smooth continuation of Sony's reign. But then, the momentum started to slow. Today in 2025, many longtime PlayStation fans feel something is off. There's a growing sense of silence, confusion, even frustration. What once felt like a bold, focused gaming empire now seems cautious, fragmented, and at times unsure of itself. Let's break it down. Leadership turmoil. One of the biggest red flags came in 2023 when Jim Ryan, then CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, announced his departure. While not catastrophic on its own, his exit left a vacuum of clear vision at a pivotal moment. Ryan had overseen the incredibly successful PS4 era and the launch of the PS5. Without him, many began to wonder, who's steering the ship now? New leadership has yet to define a bold new direction. Internally, multiple projects have reportedly been canceled or delayed. Studios like Naughty Dog, usually prolific and proud, have remained eerily quiet. Other once pivotal studios like Pixel Opus were simply shut down. Where are the games? In the PS4 era, Sony consistently delivered one or two massive exclusives per year. That rhythm has vanished. As of mid-2025, we're still waiting for major titles like Marvel's Wolverine, Ghost of Tsushima 2, and whatever Naughty Dog is secretly cooking. Meanwhile, The Last of Us continues to be repackaged and remastered, leaving fans wondering if Sony is stuck looking backward instead of forward. This lack of new IPs and big announcements creates a void. In the meantime, players are turning to multi-platform titles, indie games, or worse for Sony, to competing ecosystems. The PS5's identity crisis. There's also the question of the PlayStation 5's identity. The console is powerful, sleek, and successful in raw numbers, but what does it stand for? The PS4 was the console of prestige single-player titles. The PS2 was the console of variety and accessibility. But the PS5? It's struggling to define itself beyond the next PlayStation. Its UI and services haven't innovated meaningfully. The PS Plus overhaul added tiers, but hasn't delivered must-have content on the level of Xbox Game Pass. And Sony's forays into live service games, a major internal shift, have yet to bear fruit, despite significant investment. While Sony appears to be treading water, its two biggest rivals, Nintendo and Xbox, have been anything but passive. Each has embraced its own strategy, and together they've transformed the gaming landscape in ways that directly challenge Sony's long-standing dominance. Let's start with Nintendo. Nintendo, the undisputed champion of fun. The Nintendo Switch, launched back in 2017, should have started slowing down by now, but it hasn't. As of 2025, it continues to sell millions of units each year, outperforming expectations and remaining a juggernaut in handheld and family gaming. But more than the hardware, it's the games that keep Nintendo on top. The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom broke records, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Metroid Dread, and Animal Crossing. New Horizons have built entire communities. And Switch 2, though still unannounced, is already generating massive buzz thanks to leaks and developer kits being spotted. Nintendo doesn't chase graphical fidelity or massive online worlds. It focuses on gameplay, creativity, and accessibility. And it works. Even without a traditional media powerhouse like Sony behind it, Nintendo continues to dominate social media, family living rooms, and YouTube gaming culture. Xbox, from underdog to strategic powerhouse? Then there's Xbox, a brand that, just a few years ago, many were ready to dismiss. The Xbox One era was a PR disaster, but since then, Microsoft has executed a comeback few saw coming. It all started with Xbox Game Pass, a subscription service that now includes hundreds of games, including day one releases from major studios. For many players, Game Pass isn't just a bonus, it's their primary way of gaming. This shift changed the conversation entirely. While Sony still clings to the idea of $70 exclusives, Xbox has positioned itself as the most accessible and value-rich ecosystem in gaming. Console, PC, cloud, your games go with you. The cloud and the future. And then there's cloud gaming. Microsoft has pushed forward with xCloud, letting players stream games directly to their phones, tablets, or TVs without a console. While the technology is still growing, it represents a future Sony has barely touched. The PlayStation Now service, once a pioneer, has now fallen far behind. Xbox isn't just competing with consoles anymore. It's trying to become the Netflix of gaming, and they're actually getting closer than anyone expected. The Xbox Portable. A new threat, and just when Sony's portable gaming division seemed completely dead, Xbox steps in with a rumored handheld device. Leaks suggest a powerful Game Pass-focused portable console is on the way, aiming to compete directly with the Steam Deck and Nintendo Switch. If that becomes reality, Xbox will be in homes, in backpacks, and in your pocket, while Sony sticks to its console-only strategy. For many gamers, especially younger ones, that flexibility matters more than raw power. Let's be clear. Sony may be down, but it's not out. Behind the silence, there are signs that PlayStation is preparing its next major wave. Studios are working, rumors are swirling. And if we've learned anything from Sony's history, it's that this company knows how to regroup and strike back at the perfect moment. So let's ask the question, is a comeback on the horizon for PlayStation? Studios in the shadows first, we have to look at the creative heart of Sony, its studios. While it's true that 2024 and early 2025 have felt unusually quiet, this doesn't mean nothing is happening. On the contrary, multiple major studios are reportedly working on ambitious next-gen projects. Naughty Dog is deep into development on an entirely new IP, separate from The Last of Us. Leaks suggest it's a sci-fi game, possibly a narrative-driven open-world title. Santa Monica Studio, fresh off the success of God of War Ragnarok, is rumored to be exploring new mythology, perhaps an Egyptian or Mayan setting. Insomniac Games is developing Marvel's Wolverine, which promises to be a darker, more brutal action-adventure than Spider-Man. These are not minor updates. These are the kinds of games that define generations if they land correctly. A new vision in the making? It's also possible that Sony's current silence is intentional. A recalibration, a shift in direction. After years of dominating the single-player cinematic experience, Sony may be rethinking how to stay ahead. They've invested heavily in live service games, multiplayer development, and cross-platform tech. Some of those investments haven't paid off yet, but they signal an effort to diversify the PlayStation identity. There's even talk of a new console strategy. Rumors persist of a PlayStation Portable device, or a PS5 Pro model launching in late 2025 or early 2026. Combined with a new wave of games that could reignite interest in the PlayStation brand overnight, sometimes silence is the calm before the storm. Sony still has the power, hype. It's important to remember that Sony remains financially strong. PlayStation is still a cash machine, and its digital ecosystem continues to grow. PS5 sales are solid, and PlayStation Studios as a brand still commands immense respect. In terms of talent, infrastructure, and global reach, Sony has everything it needs to reclaim the narrative. They just need to start showing it again. So, is Sony losing momentum? In many ways, yes. The silence is real. The delays are real. The frustration among players is growing. While Xbox pushes forward with aggressive innovation and Nintendo continues to enchant the world, Sony feels like it's paused as if caught between generations, searching for its next defining move. But here's the truth. Falling behind doesn't mean falling forever. Sony has been here before. After the rocky PS3 era, they regrouped, refocused, and gave us the incredible PS4 generation. The question now isn't whether they can bounce back, it's whether they'll do it in time. The competition is fiercer than ever. Gamers have more options than ever, and loyalty can fade faster than a loading screen. Still, PlayStation has something no one else can copy: a legacy of unforgettable worlds, a library of iconic characters, and studios capable of crafting the next masterpiece. But to stay at the top, Sony needs to move. Fast, boldly, and with clarity. Because in the world of gaming, it's not just about who ruled yesterday. It's about who dares to lead tomorrow.